Committee on Metropolitan District Commission Board meeting, please come to order for December 4th, 2023. Will the clerk please read the roll?
DeBella,
Yes.
Adel,
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Papadesian,
Here.
Pisano,
Here.
Buell,
Here.
Bush,
Here.
Curry,
Here.
Desai,
Here.
Drake,
Here.
Gale,
Here.
Gardeau,
Here.
Gentile. Yeah, I see Commissioner Gentile on the WebEx. Healy, Hoffman,
Here.
Hoheb,
Here.
Holloway,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
LaChance,
Here.
Lester,
Here.
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Magnan,
Here.
Mandyke,
Here.
Maniscalco, Payne,
Here.
Patel,
Here.
Potowski, Salemi,
Here.
Stuber, Taylor,
Here.
Torres,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Okay, pledge of stand for the pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, approval of minutes of November 1st, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or deletions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5, public comments relative to agenda items. Okay. Item 6.
Good evening. My name is Alma Elder, and I'm a member of Third Act, which is a group of elderly citizens who are very active in civic affairs. And in particular, we have been trying to follow the work that MDC has been doing on Durham Street and preventing the sewer and water overflows on that street. And I wondered if somebody could just clarify for me. I'm looking at the report, North Hartford Sewer Improvement Projects. I just wanted to make sure what was reported there on Durham Street. It looks as though the water main work is completed. The sewer main lining is completed. Is that correct? The water main work and the sewer main lining is completed. And it looks as though lateral lining is ongoing and private property drain connections are still ongoing. Is that correct?
I have the perfect person to answer that question. Our Chief Executive Officer.
I'll do it.
Okay.
You want to do it in the report?
I'll do it, my report.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, could we just have the responses
Yeah.
to questions from the public?
You're right. You're right. Fine, go ahead. It's going to be in his report. It'll be covered.
In his report. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for the time.
Okay. Further comment from the public? Okay. No report from the district chairman. Report from the chief executive officer.
We're going to try and go quick because we got a long agenda. So I'm going to just whiz through a bunch of issues, and a lot of these issues are going to go to the appropriate subcommittee so we can talk about it in detail there, but I just want to make sure there's some important things we should just highlight for the full board. So I'm going to go quickly. I did provide, everyone should have a summary of, as I mentioned, we meet every Wednesday with our staff talking about the North Hartford projects and the status and the question that was raised. And in the document, which I won't read it, but in the document it has the update on Durham Street. The most important thing to highlight on this is that the MDC made a commitment to achieve 30%. Again, this was a goal that was set by the MDC, no one else. And we set a goal of hiring 30% Hartford-based workforce which we've never done before, we are achieving that goal, which is outstanding. A lot of hard work that's occurring behind the scenes with our staff to make that happen. We also have, as we mentioned before, Jeff King has talked about a workforce development that we've partnered with a number of nonprofits across Hartford to provide capacity for our contractors to hire people in Hartford, whether they're licensed plumbers or anyone who could benefit and be part of the program. So that there's an update there. That Hartford work-based program actually morphed into another program that our HR department is working on, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other piece of that work in North Hartford is, which is confusing, but we try to make the distinction of the Connecticut Comptroller Program, which is significantly different than our program, but we're engaged in part of that. And that update is, this is directly from the state. They've received 300 applicants, and as we talked about, you can, under the state's program, choose to hire an inspector to either from the MDC, which we were required to comply with under the statute, or you can hire your own, or you can hire the state comptroller's inspector. We have received, out of that, 22 of those applicants requested to have the MDC do those inspections. And we just got an update from the state with some numbers from there. They've identified 300 applicants. 230 of the applicants have been notified of an inspection. About 150 have responded. There's a total of about $240,000 that's been approved of the $5 million. And their expectation of those applicants is that will rise up to $357,000. So that's from the comptroller's office. Also important, this is very important, as some of you may remember, under our consent order, we're required to have public hearings. So we modified and changed the consent order, as we all remember, to spend $47 million in North Hartford. Now we're spending $180 million. Under the consent order, we have to have a public hearing. We're having a public hearing on an annual basis, December 14th, here in this room at 5:30. The reason why we picked this room is almost all of our meetings have been virtual, and we can have a much broader base if we have, with all the new technology in this room. We will be making overflow into the other two conference rooms here, but we have to have a annual meeting, and then we have to have quarterly meetings, and we'll be having those virtual, and anyone who wants to come. There is going to be a public commenting period at the beginning, John, right? 3 minutes. Everyone has the chance to make a comment, 3 minutes. So that's an important meeting that we need to have, and it's really just an update. Not much different than what I've provided you in those emails that we've sent you about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then in addition to that, we're also required, under the statute, the HB 6941, we're also required to provide DEEP and the Environment and Planning and Development Committees with a monthly update. So the first one is due in January 1st. That's going to be a joint report with MDC and the City of Hartford, basically telling DEEP and that committee what are we doing to help sewage backups and street flooding, all those issues that arose. And then after that, in February, then MDC will send that monthly report. We'll make sure that the commissioners get that as well. So it won't be much different than what you have in front of you, with some more detail. Let me see. Number two, we talked about, in front of you, we talked about the work-based learning program. So we're migrating into a different, what we've learned with some of the workforce or local nonprofits, is they developed a program with DOT, the laborers union developed a program with DOT, and basically created an apprentice program with the union for DOT, which we tapped into. And this is going to be our contractors' workforce. They're utilizing the Hartford school system and the technical high school system in Hartford. And we're utilizing that to help feed workers, skilled craft workers, in an apprentice program to our contractors. We are actually taking advantage of that structure, and Jamie will be presenting this to PPI at some point, but we're going to be developing our own program, which is not just for our contractors, but it will also be for MDC. So, for example, we just got notified tonight that the program is going to offer us 10 kids, high school kids, between April 8th and 12th at no cost to the MDC under the program, and we're going to train them, and the goal will be that these kids, seniors and juniors, have the right to work so many hours a week. A senior is whatever that might be, a junior is less, but we're going to utilize that program to actually help develop skilled craft workers, and they will be apprentices. We're really looking for kids with to get CDLs, to get water treatment, wastewater treatment licenses. So that's a great program. Jamie has applied for a grant through EPA. We're hopeful. I think she submitted a couple last week. I think it's a $600,000 grant. Is that right, Jamie?
We applied for it, yeah.
Yeah. So if we get it, that's great. If we don't, we're still going to go forward with the program, because we're realizing that the skilled craft worker, we're going to have to go create our own program for apprentice programs, because there's no programs out there. So that's a positive thing. Also, you got a copy of, we received, this will be the 12th year in a row, and thank you to Rita Kelly and to Jamie, approval from CHRO, 12th year in a row, approval of our affirmative action plan, and the document you guys have in front of you is the document that we submitted. You've seen this before, but as one of those is, we're really proud of this, that, on a 12-month running average, we've hired 36.59 as of the date of the meeting, which was November 8th, which is a percentage of hires of people of color. So CHRO is very happy about that, very positive. So again, great work to our staff. I do want to, not going to go into detail, but we did get our workers' comp report. I do want to bring that to PP&I. Total, just as an example, total lost time claims frequently decreased by 39% from 2022 to 2023. All great news. We'll present those details at PP&I. I talked to Commissioner Gale about the connections. So with that, I'm going to say I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
The question,
No.
one issue that I'd ask on Commissioner Anderson, you have some, you have an idea that you want to talk to, not here, but referring you to talk to Commissioner Anderson with relative to the program you discussed with me.
Okay.
We have discussed with you.
Great.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm curious as to why, doesn't Hartford have two, that's right, doesn't Hartford have two high schools? And I don't see them mentioned. I see that Hartford Public, but we have Weaver, and we also have a high school in the south end. Bulkley. Are they included in this, or, because there's no mention of them there, and I think that we probably have just as many students there that may be of interest in terms of pulling into these programs as from Hartford Public.
Yeah, if I may defer to Jeff King.
Good evening, everyone. So we're working with the Hartford Public High Schools in general. We just had our first mini job fair at Hartford High School. We had one of our contractors attend with us over there, and we met a lot of great students with partnering with Ready CT, Chris Venable, and Anthony Carter. So we have a list of students that are juniors and seniors. We were able to hand out a list of, a spreadsheet of our workforce development program that we have here, so that we could, market and promote to the students what kind of opportunities are at the MDC and what kind of opportunities are with our contractors. So that mini job fair went well. We actually got a request to do one at Weaver High School. I'm in the process of planning that right now with Jamie and the staff here. So we'll be doing another job fair at Weaver High School in January. We're just, really laying the groundwork right now. So we do plan on reaching out to each high school. We're just, taking our time and getting those ducks in a row, and we'll continue to do that effort. So.
But what about the high schools and the other member towns? There's East Hartford, there's Bloomfield,
Yep.
there's Windsor,
Yep.
There's Newington.
Yeah, we're not looking to discriminate against anyone.
But I'm not saying that you're doing that, but the fact of the matter is there's no indication here, so that one was surveying this, one would quickly come to the conclusion that somehow some of the high schools in our member towns are being left out of the mix. And all I'm saying here, basically, there are a lot of kids in those schools that are not going to go on to college. And I think that it would be incumbent upon us to basically make an effort to sweep those folks into our net. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that advice and recommendation, and we'll definitely take that into deep consideration. I think what happened was because of the Hartford workforce goal, we laser focused in on the community schools right now, and we do intend to expand as we build a capacity to do that. So I appreciate the suggestion, and we'll definitely look into that. But we're not going to discriminate against anyone at any school.
Thank you. Commissioner,
Just quickly, before you leave,
Commissioner Salemi?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get funny. But I would also ask about the tech schools, and Prince Tech is within the district. Cheney Tech is just outside the district, but they're certainly close enough to the district and in New Britain as well. So, and those would seem like a really logical or likely place to go to. I'm not just saying that because I used to teach at Prince Tech, but I think that that'd be a great place to go to, because they have people getting trained with the skills that we need here. So,
Sure.
But are we planning on reaching out to the tech high schools as well?
Absolutely. So we're in communication with the CTEC schools. We actually had a seminar through CCIA. Don Schubert put on a seminar, and we met with Brett McCarthy, who is the work-based learning coordinator. So we're in contact with Brett, and we have things in the making so we can do more job fairs. We want to get out to each school and present the opportunities that are happening with MDC, with the contractors. So we're just basically building all this from the ground up, but we are in communication with CTEC and have attended seminars where they're explaining to us what they're doing, right? They're actually building a new online database where students that are currently in school and graduates can upload their resume. We can upload job opportunities, keep in contact with those students that are in school and the graduates. So we'll continue to partner with the CTEC schools and tag the kids that are in the various programs, whether it's plumbing, electrical, etc.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Torres.
Thank you. A major obstacle to any of these students participating in an internship program is the issue of transportation. Are we addressing that through this program somehow?
Jeff, why don't you explain and I sent an email on this issue. Commissioner, you may not have seen it, but we agree with you 100%. You and I have had this conversation. And Jeff, just give an example of what you went through to help an individual.
Sure. So when Bo Bear hired a gentleman from Hartford, and he was actually working on the weekends doing Grubhub to make some extra money, and his car broke down, and so we were having a contractors meeting and the house connection program, sorry, and the owner of the company said, hey, you guy I hired, you show up to work, today. So I called the gentleman and I said, buddy, what's going on? So he explained to me he was working on the weekends, trying to go to Grubhub and make some extra money. And I actually picked him up, right? So he said, my car is broken down in Rocky Hill. It's stranded at the moment, and I just didn't get to work for that reason. I said, well, I talked to you on day one. I told you, give me a call if you have any issues. So I actually picked up that gentleman every single day, brought him to whatever location that Bovair was working at, and so that he could get to work. So we do understand that that's an issue, and we're looking to either help out in any way we can or give advice. I told him, I said, how much money are you making an hour? How much money are you making a week? Well, I ran on Uber, and it shows me that you take an Uber to and from work, whatever location, whether it's in Hartford or as far as Newington, you'll still be net positive for the week if you can't find a ride any other way. So, I'll do whatever I can, but we're also going to work with the...
Just want to say, juniors and seniors, for the most part, don't drive, but they can't afford a car, first of all. The best way to do this, that has worked with other programs, is to get anybody who's in this program a bus pass. You got to get them a bus pass because they can't afford to pay for transportation. They don't have transportation. And if you want to get these young people into these programs, you've got to provide bus passes to get them to the programs. Otherwise, they just can't afford it and they can't make it here.
Right, I agree. We also are partnering with community organizations like Ready CT. They actually have a simulator that they're going to be able to help students get their driver's license and pay for it. So that's one partnership that we're looking to really utilize. And they have also made recommendations on how to get students to bus pass. We also have to have parents, give them the permission for their child to attend to these programs too. So hopefully, when the parents know, that will spear more, ambition to make sure that the child gets to and from himself. I agree with that.
Commissioner Lewis?
Commissioner Torres said what I was going to say about the bus passes, but I also wanted to say Uber credits. Maybe you guys could get in touch with the marketing department at Uber, because they also have credits. But also just to tell you that your commitment to this program and to that young man is amazing. And thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Patel?
At one time in your presentation, you made the comment that CDL training is a major problem for many of our employees from going from one step to another. What are we doing about it? And from my experience back in the city, we used to train our employees for CDL. Formally, one person teaches another. Is that not possible?
Commissioner, you're absolutely right. We used to train our own individuals on site with our own equipment to get their CDL. Unfortunately, the federal DOT has decided that you cannot do that anymore. You have to, in order to get a CDL, you have to go through a private licensed program. The employer cannot train their employees. So I just had this conversation with Jamie the other day. We have monies that we put aside every year for education, and education allows us, if one of our employees wants to go to college, we pay $5,000. If someone wants to get a CDL, we will pay for that as well. So we have to change with the times, and we're going to have to. If an employee wants to get a CDL, we cannot train them by law. But we will provide them with the money to get the training.
Is it a law, or is it somebody came up with a cockamamie?
Well, I don't know if you call it cockamamie, but it's a federal DOT requirement now.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
When did that become effective?
January 2021 or?
20 or 21.
It was during
I don't
COVID.
know if it was before that, but
You're going to have to
the clearinghouse
speak.
was part of
Jamie,
it.
if you're going to speak,
Yeah,
you
sorry.
got to speak into the...
Yeah. The DOT, federal DOT has changed the rules when it comes to CDLs, especially when it comes to DUIs and comes to drug testing. And I'll give you an example. This all happened during COVID. I think it was January of 20, if I'm not correct, Jamie. But when a person failed a drug test at the MDC, the typical process was really independent. Each union is a little different, but independent. It was you were disciplined, you had to go to a medical facility and have them clear you, which might take 3 or 4 or 5 days, and then you're back to work. Now this federal clearinghouse, as Jamie mentioned, it says, no, now it's, and we've already gone through it 2 or 3 times here at the MDC, they decide when that individual is capable of returning to work. And in some cases, it takes a month. It has taken a month. And I don't know, Jay, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I mean, that covers the clearinghouse, which is all of our CDL drivers are part of that program. We have been doing that for a number of years at this point. In terms of the educational requirement and us not being able to train our drivers, I don't know the exact date that changed. I don't know if it coincided with the clearinghouse, but I know that we legally are not able to. They have to actually go get training at a CDL driving school in order to be able to apply and take the test for their CDL. So I have actually been in contact with some local schools because I do know that is a problem. I know we have some employees who are interested in doing that. So again, as Scott said, we have talked about it and are looking to explore ways to change with the times and cover that as an important benefit here at the district as well.
Can towns start talking to this, creating a group so that member towns can send to their students from their own towns to certain school with some fixed lower rate? So it's a group buying, group purchase of these services.
We could look into that, Commissioner.
I think it is worthwhile because we need employees trained with CDL. We are short of it. At least 8 member towns, schools can start with that. 1 school, 2 school, fixed fee X dollars, and people pay from their own pocket. We don't have to pay, but we can go once a year and select 2 or 3 streets, and they compete and they give us some competitive rate.
We can look into that.
Okay. Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, I guess my question there is why can't we offer them a site at the training center and have some private company come in and basically teach the course?
That's even better, but at least one thing which, without getting seriously involved, you can create a competition.
Yes.
So that they can bid and you select, rate is disturbing, and then whoever goes on at their own will.
Thanks. Commissioner.
When this first
Commissioner Torres.
federal legislation went into effect, the city of Hartford, I had the opportunity to work with all the truck drivers. So I actually taught the CDL written part of the CDL class A test. So my question is, this federal legislation, is it applied to both parts of the test, or just to, or just to the driving part of the test? Because there are 2 parts to this.
Both.
It applies to both?
Both. The written and the practical, yes.
We can't even do the written part.
No, we cannot.
Further discussion?
I don't know, Jeff.
One thing that just recently happened was Urban League of Greater Hartford had a CDL training course that they put on. And when we were at a job fair through St. Francis, we learned about that and we promoted that through the MCC. So that's another one of the partnerships that we're looking to build for the workforce development program. So that could be another opportunity for people. I believe it was a good turnout.
One of the biggest problems with the CDI, personally I'm knowledgeable about this because I went through it. So when you go through a program, you actually train, depending, Class A and Class B are different. So for example, a Class B is an 8-week course, a Class A is a 16-week course, a Class B is it was $2,500 now, it's probably $5,000, I don't know what the number is. But the Class A, which is truck driver, you know, the traditional 40-foot trailer, you know, that's 15 grand. It's a different animal, and a lot more complicated in terms of the training. But they want to train you on the vehicle you're going to get tested in. So you can go to these programs, but if you don't have one of the biggest problems, and that's why most employers train their employees, because they have the vehicle that you're going to be driving, right? If you don't have a vehicle, and then you go to DMV to get trained, you've got to have a vehicle to get tested on. So these facilities, like the one up in Summers, New England Tractor Trailer, whatever it's called, they have an agreement with the state. It's very simple. You train on the truck. You get tested on the truck, in the same truck you tested on, so this familiarity with the vehicle, because they don't just ask you to drive, you have to explain how it operates, how you would fix it if you break down on the side of the road. So you got to understand a lot of the details, the mechanics of the vehicle.
So further questions? If not, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Item 8, report from the district council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, just a couple updates on some litigation matters. The tunnel claim is proceeding at court-ordered speed, and that means that our trial date is in January of 2025. And working backwards from there, a lot of discovery is going to take place. It's started. Thousands of documents will be exchanged, either electronically or physically, and there'll be expert disclosures. We have our experts in place. They have until June 1 to get their experts, and then there'll be depositions of both fact witnesses and experts thereafter. We're working through the easement with the NCLC, that's the Northwest Corner Land Conservancy, that easement, working through both the process with them and with DPH to get that easement. That's the easement that we have a memorandum of understanding with in exchange for the development restrictions that we would place on our property up in our watershed areas and watershed holdings. Land that we're not going to develop anyway, but in exchange for that, the consideration is $1 million for that, so we're waiting for to finalize that. We have a status conference on December 22nd of this year with the State Claims Commissioner on the landfill issues, so that's moving along. Hopefully we can get some traction on that. And you know that we have the pending lawsuit, which we had brought. As I reported last meeting, we were successful in objecting to a motion to dismiss certain counts of that complaint. That case is moving forward. That's also in the discovery phase. And then finally, later on the agenda, I'll be reporting on a proposed settlement of a car accident involving through no fault of his, but involving an MDC employee. So that's the sum and substance of my report, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Anything on the tunnel?
The tunnel? That was first. Yeah, first.
That's
That's. If I wasn't clear, that the first thing I described in terms of the discovery and the process and timelines was the tunnel claim, which is the South Hartford Conveyance and Storage Tunnel. That's the lawsuit brought by KOJB, the joint venture that constructed the tunnel, against the MDC. Also involved in that, not directly as parties, but certainly as participants in that litigation, are our design consultant, AECOM, and our construction administrators, Jacobs and Associates.
Other questions? Nothing. Item number 9, Committee on Organization, Consideration and Potential Action regarding Committee of MDC Government Membership. Recommended action.
We get word, and thank you, Commissioner Stuber, for
Yeah,
following up. he submitted his resignation. That was more technical than anything else.
Right.
This is Chris Stone, I'm sorry. More technical than anything else. There was a question. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you, James, Commissioner Wolf. There was a question on the number of members of that committee. We exceeded that by one. Commissioner Stuber was kind enough to resign from that committee. He was the 13th member, at least as you go chronologically and alphabetically, as it turns out, because he was appointed with 3 other commissioners. He happened to be the last one in the list. The Committee on Government handled one issue tonight relative to the rates, water rates for next year, and that was it. I don't anticipate any other government committee meetings between now and next year, so it's not a significant import, but it's just to make sure that process is followed and we have the right number of people on the committee.
So the motion is still in order?
It's not in order. It's not.
It is.
He's already,
I discussed it with
Yep.
Commissioner
Yep.
Stuber, he was very
It's all set,
accommodating.
very gracious.
And accepted. Item number 10, Bureau of Public Works and Board of Finance, consideration of potential action regarding raw water master plan and rate stabilization fund. Recommended action, receive the report and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Salemi?
Yes, both the Water Bureau and Board of Finance have considered this. The Water Bureau, at the Board of Finance received unanimous support.
Other questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item number 11, Water Bureau, consideration of potential action regarding A, 2024 district water rates. We can take these separately. Yeah, it's faster. Item A, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded.
Second.
Okay. This is just the adoption of the water rates. Yeah. Is there discussion? Don?
Yes, yeah, in the water,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Payne.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was discussed and voted on unanimously at the Water Bureau meeting. There was no issues.
Questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item B, 2024 water assessment rates and miscellaneous water charges. Recommended action, receive the report and adopt the resolution.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Payne?
Yes, this item was taken up at the Water Bureau also, and was absolutely no issues, and was voted on unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
And there's no rate increase, this is actually a rate decrease, but we're going to roll that over, right?
Yeah, we're putting it,
Into the
putting that revenue
stabilization.
from this,
If I might, this is John Rowe. This item is miscellaneous rates. There are some changes. It's cost for service taps, hydrants, other kind of miscellaneous things, lien release fees. There's a table showing there's many rates, maybe close to 50, and there's probably 10 or so that are changing.
No questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 12, Bureau of Public Works, consideration of potential action regarding 2020-24 district sewer user charge rates and other sewer charges. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move it.
Moved and seconded. This is Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. There were no issues regarding this activity. It was passed unanimously.
Okay. There are no questions. Again, there's no rate increase. The rates stayed the same, Scott?
On the Avalon.
Ad water.
Yeah, but this is John Myrtle.
But there were some rate changes, weren't there, internally?
City user charge.
Yeah, this is the sewer user charge. I'm not sure, did the BOD, COD charges or the per CCF rate change? Bob?
Okay.
Yes, in your packet, starting on page 12.1 and then concluding on page 12.5, you'll see that there are only 3 rates that changed, and they're noted in red. And again, there's some 50 some odd charges. These are all based on cost of service to make these changes. Sometimes it's the equipment involved. We're purchasing a meter. Sometimes it's the labor involved to change them. But all of these rates are reviewed each year and determined whether their cost of service, the fee that we charge, is appropriate for our cost of providing the service. And so you'll see on those pages, only 3 of the 50 some odd charges actually changed, and they're denoted in red.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item 13, Board of Finance. A, we're going to separate these out too, okay. A, authorization to execute and deliver one or more project loan and project grant agreements in any and all interim funding obligations and project loan obligations in an amount not to exceed $129,900,000 in order to fund the supplemental 2023 integrated plan project. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Salimi?
I believe this motion passed unanimously at the Board of Finance November meeting.
Got any questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item B, 2024 capital improvement budget and funding. Recommended action, receive the report and adopt a resolution. Is there a motion in order?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I believe this item passed unanimously at the Board of Finance at the November 9th meeting.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Item C, $50,000 in 2024 budget for a management study. If board approves $50K for a management study as voted by Board of Finance, item number 13E needs to be amended. The motion to amend, is there a motion to adopt first?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to amend?
The amendment would be at 13.
Oh, it's going to be at 13E. Okay, sorry.
Discussion. Did you ask for discussion here? Did you ask for discussion?
I'm gonna, there was, the amendment is gonna be taken up in 13,
Gotcha.
not here.
Thank you.
Is there discussion? Go ahead.
Okay. Let you know. Thank you. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, can I address both C and D at the same time? D being the budget for climate study, $50,000 for each.
Sure.
These are, management study and climate study are, as I understand it, basically euphemisms for gathering data and fact-finding, having to do with management and then having to do with employees, staff and employees. And I have no particular reason to object to spending money to find out what's going on inside, if anything, good or bad. But I don't have any information about what it is we're trying to accomplish. I don't have any information about what precipitated this, what the initiative is that somebody's taking. And I don't mean Commissioner Randall, for example, I just mean in general. I'd like to know a little more about where this is coming from, what's involved, who's involved, and if it's necessary, I'd like to go into executive session. Not necessarily tonight, unless this is an emergency that we have to pass this as part of the budget. If it's not cut, if it's in the budget, if money's in the budget, we're not worrying about ad valorem and so forth, then I imagine it'll be in the budget next month. So I'm throwing that out there because I'd like to know why we're going to spend possibly up to $100,000 on a fact-finding mission that, as I see here, I've got no background whatsoever. No reason that we should or should not do it necessarily, but I want more information.
Well, Mr. Chairman, both of these passed at the Board of Finance, and we did have some explanation, perhaps. They wound up on the agenda at the request of the chairman of PPI. Maybe Commissioner Taylor can answer some of your questions. We certainly discussed it at the Board of Finance.
With regard to the management study, it has been almost 20 years since we've had someone take an outside look in terms of where we are, what we're doing, and whether or not, just based on best practices, if we're hitting the marks. We've gone through a lot of changes, and I think it behooves us, particularly with regards to not only ourselves, but to our constituents, that we do have someone sit down and take a careful look at us, review some of the work that has already been prepared, and basically get back to us and give us sort of the look by an outside party. With regard to the employee climate study, I think that, and I'm not the only one here, we've had employees call us and talk to us. In my instance, or in my case, basically what I have said to people is that there is a process. You have to use that process. And if you don't use it, I am not going to be an avenging angel. And that's where I have left it. And I have, to be quite honest with you, got into some difficulties for taking that position, but be that as it may, I'm not here to flog that. I just think that we need to, because of all of the changes, we've shrunk in size, we've had collapsing of job categories. I think it's incumbent upon us to basically give our employees a chance to tell us what they think, to tell us. Also, I think that we've had a number of people, I'm not going to say a number of people, but we've had a number of resignations here. That's a little unusual. Normally, everybody at the MDC likes to brag that people don't leave. They hang around. Well, you know, I think once again, we need to find that out. So I just think that if we are going to be honest with ourselves, we need to ask those questions. This is not an I got you. We're not looking to torpedo or to sink anyone, but essentially we basically want to hear from our employees. How do they feel? What do they think is happening to them? What do they think? I think that that's absolutely critical. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Patel. Can we,
I have a similar question.
can we deal with one or the other? Let's deal with the issue at hand that the resolution is on, the resolution is on, and that's the management study. And then we can go to the next one.
I can address on both of them. I concur with Commissioner Buell. Number one, it was introduced, no explanation given, nothing, so I could not find out why, who started, why we are doing it. I expect our CEO to provide complete explanation. This is why we are doing it. Doesn't matter who introduces it. And then question is that if it give the background with it, so we understand. I talked with 2 or 3 different people and found out little bit here, little bit there. That's not the way I will be voting.
Okay. We aren't authorizing anything tonight as a management study. This is to look at doing a management study.
No, excuse me, sir, but I'm proposing that anything which comes in, we don't want explanation from each other. We want something in black and white, written report, 1 page, 2 page, why we are doing it.
That's what we're asking here to.
No, you are asking here.
You aren't gonna do
I
a
am
management study for $50,000. So.
My point is, before even you ask for 50,000 or anything, our staff can provide the reasoning why we are doing it, and this is what is being proposed, and that is explain what it is.
Well, go ahead. I'll do it after you. Go ahead. Commissioner Torres.
I think, those questions, I think, were asked and probably to some extent at the committee level. But I don't see this necessarily just, as a very focused kind of thing. We had a management study which is many years
20 years ago.
And then consequently, we had great presentations made
Right.
by our chief executive officer and the staff on all the great things that came out of that particular study, that the changes that were made and the progress that was made in different areas. That was a long time ago. So I see this management study as being a fresh look at the good things, the great things that we're doing, maybe some things that can be done as best practices into the future, and an outside look so that maybe we can pick up some things that we could use, just as we did with the last study. And I think it's a tool that we use as a management tool that can be very helpful in helping us look towards the future in terms of the overall management. Especially, it's a great tool for management to have an introspection to allow for perhaps some recommendations to be made. And I'm reminded of something that was once told at graduate class, where Alice in Wonderland meets up with the rabbit, and the rabbit asks her where she's going, and she says, "Well, I don't know." So the rabbit tells her, "Well, any road you take will get you there, and if we don't know, where we're going and how we're going to do things, and it'll just continue to be the same kinds of things over and over again." So I don't see this being detrimental. I think it's being helpful, learning. So it allows us to learn what's going on throughout the organization, both in terms of management, employees, and that sort of thing. But I think it's a very helpful tool.
Commissioner?
Commissioner Desai, I think it makes sense to have that management study, but is that a process that we have identified? You're going to do a management study. This is the goal. This is the objective. This is how the results will be used, and this is the outcome, right? So is there a process identified where we know that once we get into the study, where is going to end? Or is it just going to end, we get the report and we're done? Are there going to be any steps after the report? Because I think that process should be identified and everybody should be aware of what the whole process is going to be once you undertake this $50,000.
The $50,000 isn't for a management study, it's for just what you're saying.
Yep.
Is coming back to the board and saying how we're going to do it. Listen, we did it 20 years ago. It's a healthy thing to do for any public corporation so that it isn't just our eyes looking at it, it's also the public. We saw the staff present, at least the first time I've been here, a very intense explanation of what we did between the last 20 years in terms of what we did. I think everybody will acknowledge that it was an outstanding study that was done, and I think it's time that we have someone look at it so we can say to the outside world, we think we did a great job here. The board accepted it. We spent, what, 6 weeks? How many meetings?
8 presentations.
8 presentations that the vast majority of the members on this board sat through either in person or on Zoom. And I think it's a great time. And that's what we're allocating $50,000, not to do a management study, but to do a management study that will explain just what Avery is, Commissioner Buell is asking. And that $1. Now the staff said, we asked the question of what it would cost us to do a management study similar to what we did in 20 years ago. And they said, with the cost of living, I believe it was, what, Scott, $500,000 or something?
6, yeah, it was.
Yeah, $500,000 or $600,000. An enormous amount of what we did and what staff did is going to be much easier to go through a management study and look at what we did and what we presented over the last 20 years that we have accomplished, and then put that in the perspective of where we would go in that management study. So this is not to approve a management study, it's to approve a process to get to that point, to bring it back to the board. That's what the Board of Finance recommended. I sat through a meeting. That's what my interpretation of it was.
Yeah,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
We're talking about a meeting of the Board of Finance. And
No,
I thought I heard somebody say here that we didn't consider any of this stuff, so I'd like an opportunity to speak about it, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll let you speak after.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I am not opposed to a management or a climate study, but I agree with Commissioner Buell and Commissioner Patel that I think we should possibly take this offline. I don't think we have to put this within the budget. I think we can take it offline because one of the things I'm fearful of, if we as a collective commission cannot decide that we're going to go the next step and spend $500,000 or $600,000 on a true management study, why are we spending the $50,000 to begin with to outline the study? So I think we need to decide if we're going to consider this in another budget and if we're going to go the next step. It's one thing to plan. It's another thing to say, okay, we're going to potentially execute and spend this kind of money. And I think, you know, I just have a lot more questions on this. Like I said, I'm not opposed to this at all, but I think we should take this off the table as far as this. If we have monies that we potentially know that we can move over and utilize, I don't think we need to put it in a resolution form at this time. And thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I think that suggestion has been made that we pass this more or less without discussion, and that's not true. First of all, we asked through the Board of Finance that the Finance Department provide us with an estimate at the meeting before we discussed this. So we discussed it, and as you described, and the estimate was for over $500,000, something in the neighborhood of $750,000. And there was no one that suggested that we do that. Well, we asked for that. And it was you, Mr. Chairman, who explained just what you explained just now at the Board of Finance meeting, that we wanted to, determine what the elements of a finance, wanted to determine what the elements of a management study would be at this point. And we would look back at the ones that were provided in the past and at the ones that were provided by our own staff. And we thought $50,000 would be used to hire a consultant to do that for us. So I think it was discussed, and I think it was discussed at length, and I think that you answered it, and you just presented exactly what you said at the meeting, and I think it answers all the questions that were brought up this evening. That what is the $50,000 for, and I think we understand what it's for. Certainly the Board of Finance understood what it was for. Secondly, I'm going to reserve the right to comment about the other study, the climate study, when we get to it, but those are my comments about this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Abdul. I agree with the other commissioners that we should table this. I mean, I may not be the smartest bull with a bunch, but $50,000 to sit here, and I understand it's not to do a management study. I want to make sure I put that out there. It seems that $50,000 is a lot of money to hire a consultant for. We can go back and look at what we did at the other staff, make other management studies and come up with the reasons why we should do it, number one. Number two, what I've heard is other commissioners want to do this. I'd like to know what commissioners are interested in doing this and the reasons for it. But we're not getting that. We have not gotten that. We've talked about it 2 or 3 times and got the same answer. So I agree. I think we should put it on a table because it's money I think that we could probably need a lot more discussion.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear enough in terms of what the committee, I sat through the committee meeting, and what we're saying is we didn't get a detailed outline from the staff what 50 or 500 or $600,000 would bring us. We didn't believe that we needed to spend that much money because of the volume of work that was done by the staff this time. When we did it 20 years ago, we started from scratch. And we had to go through what we basically did. What did we spend, $365 or $400,000? Kelly, I think you gave us the quote.
370.
In 2003, we spent $378,000 in total.
Right, and what you told us was a comparables management study, given the cost of living and the increments in that industry would be, what was the number?
That study today, utilizing the CPI index over those years, would amount to about $628,000.
And I guess the point that we made in the committee was we didn't believe we needed that volume of money to do the volume of work that would be required to look at a management study, and that's what the $50,000 was, to justify what a reasonable number would be when we bring it back to, the Board of Finance brings it back to the body. So the allocation, we don't have to spend 50, that was what was recommended as an outline cost. And it wasn't a $50,000 allocation on top of what we're doing. What happened was we asked Scott to go back through the budget, and the staff came up with $100,000 to do the 2 studies that did not increase the cost of operation to MDC. We did it with that $50,000 for climate study, $50,000 for a proposed study on a management study was paid for within the additional budget that we have in front of us that was adopted this evening. It's a realistic approach in 20 years not to have someone from the outside take a reasonable look, and that's what we're trying to determine how much that would really cost us. And we did not get that evaluation from staff when we asked the question. That's the reason why we came back to the body and said, this is what made the Board of Finance did, what we would do. Commissioner?
Well, if I can, because you're addressing, you addressed me, I don't want to just comment.
Okay.
With all due respect to the chairman, and I understand what you're saying, but what I will also say is this. We had 8 meetings where our staff, people we pay to do the job here, told us where we had been, where we were, and where we wanted to go. Now, they did this. And now what we're saying, and we said they did a real good job, and now we're saying that some of us don't necessarily believe what our staff that we're paying good money to do gave us the right information. Am I misunderstanding?
You're misunderstanding what I said. The issue was the fact that any public agency that's worthwhile, because we have been criticized when people say, well, that's your view internally on what you did for us, which was a great job. But to have outside eyes, best practices are a broader issue that you deal with. And we're not saying it was done improperly. I acknowledge what was done was volumes more than we had 20 years ago when we did this, or 21 years ago. And all we're saying is we're taking $50,000 to ask the same questions that Commissioner Buell asked. To be able to come back here and say, here's the extent to which we propose, then we can have a legitimate debate on whether spending whatever that amount of money is makes sense. This is a process that every public agency at some point in time over some period, and we have, and they used to be 10-year looks that we had, but never to the extent that we had in the last one 20 years ago. So what we're trying to do is come back to the body with a realistic approach. This is no criticism of the staff that we have. It's really to say what a great job we did, because I've never seen it in the 40 years that I've been on this board. I've never seen anything like what was done that took a 20-year period from one management study to this period in time and laid out the volume of work and the amount of work that the board reviewed. So it would be nice to have the public look at the thing and have someone outside of the Metropolitan District Commission, which is a normal process for any public company, to be able to say, now we have an outside eyes look at it, and to what degree it would be determined by the board. I don't believe we have to spend $600,000 to get a realistic evaluation of what we did in that 20-year period. That's what it is. It's not to be a situation where you're trying to be critical of anybody. I think it's a positive approach as a body of this size that spends $200 million of public money in the process of delivering services. And I think it's the right time to go out in the next year to determine what it is and how it is, and then come back to this board, because there isn't enough information to say, let's just do a management study. That's a realistic approach to a rational approach to a public agency providing to the public what we do.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Curry here. My comments can be applied to both the management study and the climate study. I look at it simply as an audit. And I like audits because they tell the story. They identify our strengths. They identify weaknesses if we have any. We have done so many good things with MDC. And I don't think there's a question of that. But over the course of 20 years, so much has changed, from simple things like technology, right? It's like simple technology, to how we operate, to how we do business, the consolidation of job specs. Our workforce has changed, our requirements have changed. And I think as a board, we've approved those changes based on the recommendations from administration. And our administration has done an exceedingly good job. But we shouldn't shy away from investing a few dollars to perform an audit, to showcase our strengths and to identify any weaknesses we may have and take corrective action. Hopefully, there's going to be many more good things than there are any weaknesses. But it's not to identify a person or a department or a unit or an employee from doing anything other than what they're doing. We just want to improve and help, if we can, to make it better. And better for the people we serve, the towns we serve, the ratepayers we serve. So it's, I think, a few dollars invested, not being added to our budget, but coming from transfers from other line items, is something we should support.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yeah, Commissioner,
nobody is questioning why we are doing it. My question was, it was never explained. And my point is, anything which, such a big step, it is essential. It should have been explained in black and white. So you guys are here 20 years, 15 years, 40 years, 50 years. I am here 4 years. I needed to understand. I asked 3 different people, 3 different questions, and I could not gather the information. Why, what we are doing. So I'm saying is that when we propose something like this, introduce it with some black and white written program. I heard that I attended board meeting, I attended budget meetings, but everybody talks about it. Nothing in writing explained anywhere, this is what is done.
that's the reason we want to come back with the $50,000. We don't know, we just remember.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying is that somebody would have said, proposed, okay, this is what study, everything what you guys said, everything should have been put in black and white so everybody can understand it. And it didn't happen. And that is why the questions are occurring.
Commissioner Gale?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to second what Commissioner Curry said a moment ago. Like him, I think that this is very similar to an audit. And like audits, audits come in at least 3 different formats. It depends on what you need. You might need the lowest level of an audit, you might need the highest level of an audit. What I'm hearing tonight is that with respect to a management audit, we don't know what we need, whether we need a low level, medium level, or a high level. And that this money is going to be spent to tell us what kind of a management audit we need. With respect to having the audit, I come to this body fully understanding that I have a fiduciary responsibility, as we all do, to the ratepayers and the residents of the MDC. I think it behooves us in our fiduciary capacities to make sure, as has been stated earlier, that we are adequately checking over time what we're doing with some outside eyes to make sure that what we're doing is heading in the right track. I think we all think we are, but I think getting that outside look in is probably going to be very beneficial to everyone. So I certainly would support this. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah,
Let's have commissioners that haven't spoken yet.
Thank you, Commissioner Adel. Thank you. The motions of both studies, both stable management for now, went through PP&I as it should have. It's where it originated from. Commissioner Taylor that made a more than adequate explanation of it. It flowed to finance, where we adjusted we actually discussed 4 different studies, I believe, Commissioner Taylor, Chairman Taylor, including a strategic plan and a salary study. We didn't choose those at this time. These 2 we did choose. And I think Commissioner Curry's excellent outline of that this being an audit is absolutely needed. As a former public official in Weathersfield, we ran audits periodically and felt, for the most part, they were correct. Were there any needs to be corrected? They were corrected. I'm not saying we have to correct anything now, but and the strategic plan committee did a very good job of outlining where we are management-wise. I still think there needs to be a strategic plan done, which I don't think has been. So I fully support this study. Thank you.
Commissioner, is there anybody that hasn't spoken yet? Commissioner Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's sometimes hard to formulate a thought and try and slip into the conversation at the right time. So if it sounds like I'm saying something that perhaps has been said, or a thought that has been already explained, I apologize up front. But this conversation, to me, having been here almost at the beginning of my tenure as a commissioner, is that I really didn't know all that I know today about the operation of MDC. But I did follow along that previous management study and found it to be very revealing, but at the same time, quite a simple statement. Because at the end, and there were many conversations, clearly, and they covered many topics, management, operations, and otherwise. But at the end of the day, the message that I got from it all was MDC's doing fine. Concentrate on what you do, what you're charged to do. Deliver water and get rid of it when it's dirty. And basically, that was the message. Because at the time, and I wasn't clear about all of the side activity that might have been considered, but there were things that MDC had considered, one of which I recall was bottling water ourselves.
It's a long time.
That's a long time ago. That's right. Nevertheless, somebody had an idea, and perhaps they were right, perhaps they were wrong. But the point was, the outside observers were able to look and say, if you do that, you might get yourselves in a pack of trouble. And that was part of the message, I believe. Now, coming up to the most recent conversation where the chairman, Chairman DeBella, had attended the recent Finance Committee meeting and expressed the need, perhaps, for a management study, so-called management study, however you define it or think about it. I don't think that he was describing the $600,000 elephant. It was more a $50,000 get into the mainstream of commissioners' heads so that we understand what we might be looking for and how we might get there at the end of the day. So in his presentation at that Finance Committee meeting, it was very clear to me at that time to be 100% support. And I voted for that going forward as a recommendation. In conversations with several commissioners, it became clear to me that many were not quite going along with that notion as they understood it. I'm not saying they were wrong, just as they understood it. Then I go forward and I hear, actually as it's written in the agenda, a climate study. Now you have to be careful in today's world when you use certain words. Climate, as I was instructed just tonight, was the difference between external climate and internal climate. External climate would be global. Internal is what the climate is within the institution. I believe, and Commissioner Taylor, if you would correct me if I misstate, you're talking about the internal climate at the MDC. So, we know that in any institution, there is an internal climate. And from time to time, it may get bumpy, it may get contentious, it may hit all kinds of barriers along the way. But at the end of the day, if you take and think of it as an internal judge of the climate, an observation of how it ticks. I think it's pretty clear that from time to time, every institution of this size would go through that, just as an academic exercise. So, unless I'm wrong, Commissioner Taylor, I believe that that's what you intended.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Why don't you finish?
That's fine.
And then Commissioner Taylor can verify or.
That's fine. So, the point being that when I looked at the agenda and I saw what I saw, and it hadn't been clarified, to my knowledge, or to my understanding, I'm thinking, climate? I don't think so. We've got enough problems. And it's not because I haven't discussed with members of the staff internal climate questions, because I have, for better or worse. And they exist. And it's not anything new, except, again, to Commissioner Taylor's suggestion to do this study is a good one, because it is exactly that kind of thing where you have to take a step back and look at what's going on and how it affects how we deliver our business. And it is, after all, a business. So we have to be careful what it is we're doing, if we're really doing what we say we're doing, and if we do it as well as we do. Now, two other things. Somebody mentioned before, audit. Again, that's another word that you got to stop and think. What does that audit tell you? Well, I can tell you this, that having been on finance committees for more or less a dozen or so years, one of the things that I learned over the course of time was to look at the letter called a management letter that the audit providers submit to the institution to indicate where things might be questionable or could be improved upon and so forth. And so over those dozen or so years, I concentrated on those management letters. And I can tell you, and I don't say that we have to be embarrassed by it all or whatever, there were some rough times over the course of those 12 or 15 years. And those management letters, if carefully read, and I believe I did that and passed on my concern over that time to whoever the finance director was, and found out that improvements could easily be made if you stayed on target and stayed on course and kept trying to improve. And remember, this was all along the way to get the SAP in gear so that we could take a bigger leap forward than we thought we should be taking 15 years ago. But getting back to the other word that was used, technology. Now, 20 years ago, we talked about what the MDC should be doing as a business, how it should be operating, how it could improve itself. Well, we've just been sitting for the last, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 months in technology meetings where processes have been demonstrated, discussed, and possibly in the back of our minds considered going forward. So it's not like we're going to get the same management study concerns exposed that we had 20 years ago. These are going to be new. There are things changing all the time, major things. And technology is just one of them. So I believe that when our audit is done after this budget, which I find to be very well done, and I find our finance department very well able to do a great job and clearly improved leaps and bounds over many years ago. So I have no problem with expecting that the management letter that comes out for the next audit, based on this budget, is going to be, as they say, clean. So that's the biggest compliment I think I could pay to the finance director. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. So I'll leave that. There's plenty to chew on, I guess. And I would appreciate Commissioner Taylor just responding to that basic question that I had.
Well, your basic question with regard to the climate studies, yes, we are talking within the MDC. We're not talking about the broader universe. However, we're a policy-making body. That's our role. And I think as policymakers, we have an obligation to take a very careful look at our organization. We're the stewards. We have a fiduciary responsibility. We're not saying, we're not trying, I got you, or anything like that. But I think what I think it's incumbent upon us to do is to decide for ourselves how we're going to let someone, a third party, take a look at us. And they may tell us you're doing a great job. Or they may tell us that we're falling down here and there. That's all something that's going to have to be scoped out. I mean, no one right now can tell you basically what the shape and form of that management study is going to be if we decide to do that. It is a work in progress where you have to basically think very carefully about it and decide or try to think about the questions that you want answered. But don't forget, these kinds of things are done all the time. So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. But I just think that it is incumbent upon us, once again, as commissioners and as fiduciaries, that we take that quiet look, that we do that audit that Commissioner Curry has so clearly stated is important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Buell.
All of you commissioners are great. You guys are super. Everyone's super. So I don't know who I appreciate more, the ones that spoke or the ones that didn't. I learned a lot. I feel much more better informed, excited about supporting these two resolutions. However, you'll notice in the agenda that there are two links, or linked next to each one of them, and it just talks about the resolution. If there was half a dozen bullet points that covered basically what all of you spent an hour talking about, I wouldn't have brought it up because I would apologize. So I might suggest that we have pictures like this, like I think Commissioner Pell was talking about. Just add something in there to let us know what this is all about. For those of us who didn't go to the finance meeting or PPI. So anyway, I thank you for all your comments, and I do hope you respond.
Well, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that we just tabled the issue of a full-fledged management study, and that was the reason we came up with the $50,000 that would, first of all, establish where we were going and what kind of direction we were going to go when we heard $650,000. After sitting through 9 sessions of very in-depth evaluation that was done over that last 20 years. So this just gives us some perspective to go on and move forward. That's what the $50,000 was for, and nothing more than that. We would then come back with that strategy to this board for approval if we were going to move on to a management study and what it would cost and why it would cost. All we did to determine the $650,000 was take a cost of living increase over that period of time. We didn't talk to anybody about the length and strength and the breadth of the management study that we're going to do. That's what the $50,000 is for. Now, $50,000 was pulled out of the air for the management study, Whether we spend that much or not is an issue. We just can't spend more than that. So, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you. I still support, after all this discussion, I still support tabling this, and I feel as the full commission can discuss before we spend $50,000 exactly what we're trying to achieve, what the scope is, and then get the details, and then it could go up for bid with management companies, once we know what we want to achieve. Why are we going to spend $50,000 for somebody else to come up and tell us what we need? We are the ones that need to decide what we really need to achieve. Frankly, everything that was discussed in strategic committee with the 8 meetings that were presented to us was outstanding. And you could see that the employees not only did their job and looked for improvements all the way through their each project. So maybe something is needed, but can't we as a board come up with a scope and exactly what's needed before we spend $50,000? Because frankly, $50,000 is not going to do much. Okay, and they're going to be back wanting to spend another $300,000 to $600,000. And I think before we even get in that position, we should discuss it further, especially after all the discussion tonight. There's still obviously a lot of unanswered questions.
Commissioner Torres.
Yeah, I think, to your question, that's what the consultant does. That person gets the information from this body and others so that they can come up with the input that we provide along with administration and says, these are the things that you should probably be then, based on what all that information that's together, should be looking at in terms of a management study. And that's what you hire that person for. It's to help put together that plan as to what that scope should look like. It's a big job, and it's very difficult to do that internally because of the nature of the work that has to be done. And so that's why I think you want to have an individual that has the skills to be able to pull that information and then come up with a recommendation, and then determine what that study would, based on the scope, what that study might cost, and then we take a look at that. Look at that scope. It's decided, it's given out. We can then modify that as a group, but we'll have that information, and then we can amend it or say, well, this is no good, or we don't want to do it, or whatever. But at least we'll have an idea of what a management study should look like and what the cost would be, whether we agree with it or not, or if we want to do part of it or all of it. But it's we spend a lot of time here. We don't have the time to do what's being proposed here. You need somebody else to come in and help us do that and gather that information. We can't do it internally.
Okay, further discussion. I think the board, I'm sorry.
As Commissioner, I promised to make this very quickly. At the beginning of this discussion, I was very skeptical about the idea, and I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for the explanation that they provided. I definitely, at this point in this discussion, support going forward. Thank you.
Okay, could we deal with the issue? I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, Commissioner Gardo. We haven't heard from the staff on what they think about this. Is this the right thing to do? If I can,
No.
or is it our prerogative as commissioners to do that? We had all this stuff over the summertime. Is this piling on, or I'd like to know what the staff thinks. If they don't think if they don't think it's in their purview, then that's fine.
Commissioner Taylor, then Commissioner Curry.
Listen, this is, as far as I'm concerned, falls within the purview of policy issues. At the board level, we decide policy issues. I don't know what anyone else here thinks. This is not being done to play I got you. This is serious business. We've got to decide what the path is going to be for this institution going down the road. We've got a lot of things that we've got to contend with and we've got to deal with. I'm not trying to second guess staff or anyone like that. But I think as fiduciaries, we have a responsibility to let someone from the outside take a look. Now, what that look is going to be or how it's going to be shaped up, none of us have any idea right now. We've got to basically, as a policy body, decide that. But that's something that's decided by the board. Because policy is a board matter.
Commissioner Kern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would only add, and quickly as I can, our finance director does a marvelous job. And as marvelous a job as he does, I wouldn't hire Bob to audit Bob. It's as simple as that. You need outside eyes. And we're not asking for a vote to spend $50,000. We're asking for a vote to encumber $50,000 that will allow the appropriate committees to move a process through to eventually the district board with recommendations on if and how such a management study should proceed. They may expend some of the money, none of the money, all of the money. I don't know, but it's a process that really needs to take place. Thank you.
I think after listening to comments back and forth, I think what I'm looking for is what is the end game after all these things are done. I'm not opposed to study. It's good. Audits are done. As Commissioner Curry said, it's like an audit. Audit has findings. Agency or institution acts on those findings. Some hard steps are taken. Some policy decisions are made. There are a lot of ways those findings are addressed. What is the goal of this board? What are the actions the board is going to take or have in mind to take after the study is done? And again, I'm not against the study, but I'm looking at the end. What is board looking at the end?
I don't think we can.
I think and again, we may not know what those things are. However, we're doing this for a reason, right? We're trying to find something out. What is board looking at the end? Are we going to change things? Are we going to act on the recommendations that come from the board or from the report? Or a report is just going to sit on a shelf? What is board going to do at the end? Is board going to act on certain things? That's what I'm looking for. Is like, what is the process? Why are we doing this? And where we are going to end up?
I think we've expressed the issue of scope, the issue of where we're going to go. One of my concerns when I listened to the Board of Finance in the discussion that went on in the Board of Finance was how little we knew what $650,000 was going to buy us when we just put a cost of living on it. And that's what we're going to come up with the scope, come back here, and the board may disagree totally when we come back here, or they may agree and ask you to go back and re-look at something. That's a process that you go through when you're looking at an organization that is a $200 million operation, public operation. So we can't tell you exactly what it is because that's what we're talking about, spending $50,000 to get to that point and back and forth. So, I think you're asking a question that we can't answer at this point in time.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, but let me give you a point of order. Excuse me, I have
What's the point of order? Excuse me, what's the point of order? Point of order.
Yeah, we move on. I've heard the same thing from multiple commissioners. I appreciate the thoughts. I agree with you. We've
I
heard
understand.
multiple times, the same thing over and over again. I think it's enough.
Okay, that's your opinion.
It's my opinion.
That's your opinion. It's not a point of order.
That's what I meant.
We're not going to call the question. Can we move forward? Can we
Can I
move?
hear what Commissioner Taylor was going
I'm
to say?
sorry, Commissioner, I didn't realize you had seen
I
that.
mean, if you want to know the results, one of the things that was raised in the earlier, the last management study was the fact that we did not have a chief financial officer. We now have a chief financial officer, and we substantially strengthened our financial division here, all right? That's one of the things that happened as a result of that. We really don't know the things that they're going to find, or the things that they're going to have to point out, or that they may point out. But based on that, we can take a look and then make some decisions. We're all rational individuals around here, and we're all smart enough that we can look at things and decide which direction that we want to take. So, in a sense, we don't know everything that's going to pop up depending upon the look that's taken. That's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman.
Do we move on to a vote? Is there any objection to moving on to a vote? Now, we're going to vote on the management study issue first. We're going based on the criteria. There's a motion on the floor. The motion is to proceed, as we pointed out, $50,000. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Sorry.
I think it passed.
Just for the minutes, I heard Commissioner Payne opposed, and I heard one more. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, item
13D.
13D, $50,000 in 2024 budget for a climate study. Is there a motion to adopt, approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think we sort of discussed the discuss. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed?
We have 3 opposed, 4 opposed. Anybody else? You got them down, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Item E, 2024 budget expenditures proposed amendment distributed to incorporate 100, this is the amendment, is it not, Jen?
Yes.
This is the amendment to adjust, okay. Proposed amendment distributed to incorporate 100K revised to the 2024 expenditures. So is there a motion to adopt the amendment?
So moved.
Okay, do you want to, who's going to go through that? Do you want to do it, Scott? You,
If you'd like me to.
yeah.
Okay, briefly. So we were asked to basically, within the existing budget, to find $50,000. As you can imagine, any one of these items are both water sewers, so it's easier for us to pull it from an account that's already split, 51 water, 49 sewer, rather than pull 100% from a sewer department, then you gotta pull more from a water department. So we pulled from administrative budgets from myself, Chris Levesque, Kelly Shane, and HR. And we pulled $20,000 from each of our budgets, administrative budgets, 30,000 from HR, and 10,000 recommendation was from the district board budget because we put in 25.
20.
No, 10.
10.
You owe me 10. So,
You took 10 out of 11.
no, there's 25 in the district board, and there was only 300 spent last year, so we felt we could pull 10,000 from the district board budget. So that's where the money's coming from. It's from the administrative budgets from the chiefs and myself and district board.
Further questions? If not, all those in, excuse me,
But, Commissioner Slim,
I understand the comments. I just, I would only suggest that we don't know yet. We've been advised that there's going to be a significant surplus at the end of this year. My understanding is that if the surplus exceeds the amount that we've decided to set aside for the rate stabilization fund, those budgets could be restored. But am I correct in assuming that those budgets could be restored with the surplus from this year?
it would be up to the board to move money around.
I know it would. I'm just saying that that's a possibility. So that could be
that is a
restored. If there's a surplus, we could restore it.
Right. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, item F.
We need expenditures as amended.
Oh, I'm sorry. A motion, the vote now is the expenditures as amended in outline. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We need somebody, we need somebody to move it.
So moved.
Move. Is that F or is that?
It's E.
It was part of D. E, I'm sorry. Okay, it's been moved and seconded
Yes.
on the amendment, right?
As amended.
As amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, okay. Item E, 2024 budget expenditures, proposed amendment, distribution, no, that's the same way. It's F.
Yeah, ref.
Yeah, 2024 budget revenues, recommended action, review, receive the report, and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? G, 2024 hydroelectric expenditure and revenues, recommended action, receive the report, and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item H, 2024 ad valorem tax on member municipalities, recommended action, receive the report, and adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item I, 2024 referendum threshold, recommended action, receive the report, and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bob, what's the number now, 23 million?
This is a vote on, it's called the, oh shoot, no, I just drew a blank. It's a referendum threshold. Remember, it used to be the $20 million rule, and it gets increased by CPI every year. And on page 13I-2, you'll see that with the current year's CPI, the $20 million rule is now $25,829,971. So we can do a project up to that amount without having to go to referendum. And it used to, the limit used to be 20 million. So this is an annual request. It just goes up to, by the CPI amount each year.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe this passed unanimously at the Board of Finance.
Okay, without, is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? J, establishment of a sewer ad valorem tax levy stabilization fund to be funded from the proceeds, if any, from certain legal claims against the state of Connecticut. Recommended action, receive the report, and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Seconded. I believe this came out of the Finance Committee.
It did, and I would ask that you recognize Commissioner Curry, who had the original proposal, and ask that it be developed into a full resolution. So, go ahead, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry.
Yes, I went through finance with this proposal, and in simplest terms, it's creating a bank account to take any funds that we receive through these cases that are listed, or any other funds that in the future the board determines would be best assigned to this bank account, this stabilization fund. And this fund can only be used for ad valorem. It would give the board the opportunity to determine if we want to smooth, reduce, but certainly in the best case scenario, and Chris, we're talking like if we got the pie, it would be like $20 million.
At least.
So if we receive $20 million, it would automatically go into this stabilization fund. Then each year, the board could determine how they'd like to apply those funds. In my mind, it would allow this board, for a lot of years in the future, to maintain at very best, a no increase to the ad valorem fee. And it can only be used for that ad valorem fee. So, and it's very similar to the water rate stabilization fund.
Commissioner Payne.
Yeah, through the chairman, thank you, Commissioner Payne. I have a question for finance. Did they discuss whether or not if and when we get refunded something from the state, that we would reimburse ourselves for the attorney's cost and the expense for taking this to court before that whole fund is put into the stabilization fund, which I do agree. Wondering whether or not that was discussed at all.
Well, there's two things that was discussed. The first one was that we spent, I believe, $1.9 million that we put into the operating budget out of our reserve account. That obviously had to come back. When we passed legislation, we said that that money would eventually come back if we recovered it. Legal fees?
If I may, there was...
The lawyer.
Yeah, if I may, Chris Stone, there was some discussion about that. And as it turns out, it's really an accounting issue. All the money, all the funding for the lawyers is coming from the ad valorem. So all the reimbursement that we realize would go to the ad valorem. So whether it's a reimbursement and you're talking about net or a full payment without considering the cost, it's going to be, you're at the same place.
Okay, thank you very much.
John, could you bring up that resolution that was made in the past? Or how it was paid?
No.
That original resolution?
Yeah, this is John Myrtle. Since December 2017, so for the 2018 budget, the ad valorem resolution, including the one tonight, includes language that states that if the 1.9 million, which is the contingency that was carried each year, if that is paid, it shall be used to reduce the member municipalities' ad valorem tax. So that's been passed for each budget from 2018 until the present.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Chair. I believe that motion was made by Commissioner Curry as well. I don't know, you can check the record. But I would like to add that the resolution that came with the minutes, I'm sorry, with the agenda, is not the final resolution. I think, John, we made a change in that. The one that showed up with this resolution is different than the final one. Or am I correct about that or not? I thought we had a discussion with that earlier this evening.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think the resolution approved by the Finance Committee is not the same resolution that's attached to
That's correct.
the district meeting agenda.
The resolution that was passed by finance was received over the weekend. That was emailed to all commissioners today and added to open text. I'm not sure which version you're looking at, whether it was a prior email or open text, but there was a separate standalone updated resolution that was received over the weekend.
And the only difference, if I might, Mr. Chairman, between the two is that we added the word, the proposal added the word solely to the use of the funds, solely for use towards that.
Pretty much it.
I made the mistake of looking at an old electronic version,
Right.
which did not have solely. The word solely.
Thank you.
That's done. Okay,
But we just want to be sure that we're voting on the resolution that the Board of Finance voted on a couple of hours ago.
right. And it is.
Yes, it is.
It is. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 15, consideration and potential action regarding settlement of pension. 14, Committee on MDC Government Consideration and Potential Action Regarding Revision of the Water Supply Ordinance, W1F. Is there a motion to adopt? It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 15, consideration and potential action regarding settlement of pending litigation. Wow.
Yeah,
Chris,
I do it phonetically.
versus the MDC. Is there an executive session?
Not necessary. If there's a
Recommended action is to receive the report and adopt the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Chris?
Yes, if I could, briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Keystone District Council, this is a claim resulting from a motor vehicle accident which occurred on September 21, 2021. The plaintiff is a Ms. Soljem Lonovich. She was operating a vehicle that, depending upon who you talk to, and there were 4 witnesses, 2 say one thing, 2 say another, but depending upon who you talk to, she was either at a red light or a green light. And our employee was either at a green light or a red light. There's really no way of knowing. In fact, it was investigated by the police. The police came out and couldn't make a determination as to who was at fault, and made issued no citations. So we have. I've talked to the employee involved. There's been no action and will be no action against him as a result of this. The bottom line is it's a case that's ripe for settlement. The total medical expenses incurred by the injured individual were $6,500 for neck, back, and knee injuries. A $6,500 claim usually would bring about, arguably at least, a higher settlement than what we're proposing and what they've accepted. They demanded $25,000. We offered, subject to obviously approval of this body, $8,000. They came back at another number. We ended up at 10. It's the recommendation of the Office of District Counsel that you settle this case for $10,000. It's a good number, and it avoids the not only exposure to a higher number, but also the cost of trial. And those are estimated between $10,000 and $15,000 to try the case.
Commissioner Taylor?
Is it inappropriate to move that we accept that as a recommendation of council?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And move this matter forward?
I think we made a motion to adopt. Is there further discussion?
No, I don't see that.
If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Item number 16, consideration and potential action regarding request from Commissioner Salemi for indemnification and reimbursement of private attorney fees. Commissioner Taylor?
Mr. Chairman, I would request that this matter be referred to the Finance Committee for consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion to refer?
Yes, thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair, Commissioner
Van Dyke.
I just wonder if it's...
Just on the referral.
Just on
On
the
it,
question of the referral.
Oh, it's just on the referral?
Just on the question of referral. There is a discussion, it's only on the question of referral, not on the substance or merits of the request.
No,
I have a question for District Council.
Sure.
If we're referring this matter to finance, the person in question, Commissioner Salemi, chairs that committee.
he would, go ahead.
If I might, this is a referral to a board, not to a person, so it'll go to the Board of Finance. I'm sure we'll handle whatever, if you're alluding to a conflict, potential conflicts there might be. It'll be perhaps a whole new makeup of the board in 2024, but this is a referral to the board. Let's not anticipate what might happen or might not happen. Let it go to the board, and they'll make the appropriate
Push would have the input from legal relative to this issue.
Your question's well taken, but this is not the place to bring it up.
That's fine, I was just
That'll
asking.
be resolved.
That's fair.
I was just asking.
Further discussion on the motion to refer? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
No.
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 I have Commissioners Payne, Van Dyke, Magnan, and I thought I heard Avedisian, Patel, Drake, Bush. Thank you. Anyone else?
And Patel, is it Commissioner Patel?
I got it.
Oh, you got it, okay.
Can you explain me what was the precedent in the past? Have we done the same thing in the past?
This is
Well,
unprecedented.
anything that involves a potential expenditure of monies has to go to the Board of Finance for, if it's outside the budget, it goes to the Board of Finance.
Right, that's the purpose.
I just have a question, this last vote on the referral. So the question was to refer to the Finance Committee, correct?
Right.
So those who were against referring it, if it didn't get referred, what happens to it?
Let's see the determination by the board.
Yeah, then if the board decides to spend money, you go to the.
It'll still have to go back to the Board of Finance, or unless they said no to not do it.
I just wasn't sure, like,
It's ultimately going to end up there anyway, so.
Okay, thank you.
And if, depending on what they do, it would still have to come back to this board.
Yeah, okay, appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, can you ask the clerk to please announce the vote? Because I'm confused. What was the vote?
It passed. I have Commissioners Payne, Van Dyke, Magnan, Bush, Avedisian, Patel, and Drake opposed. So it's,
What's the number?
yeah, we have,
Just the numbers, it doesn't really matter to me. It was a roll call vote. It wasn't a roll call vote.
No, but
Oh, that's fair.
it was, so we have 27 commissioners in attendance, voting members, 4, 6, 7, so it's 20 to 7.
20.
Thank you.
Okay, opportunity for general public comment.
Yes, I would like to just comment. Congratulations to all of you for staying for such a long time. I still have an interest in knowing about the Durham Street project. And if you could suggest someone that I could talk to about what has been done and what has yet to be done, I'd appreciate it. I won't ask for the reply tonight.
We'll reach out.
Chief Executive Officer, go ahead.
Yeah, if you just provide your name and phone number to John Myrtle, District Clerk, I will reach out to you tomorrow.
Oh, okay, will do.
Thank you.
You want to do it now?
I believe, Alma, we've emailed, right? You have my email address?
I think we do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
If you can send
Yes.
that update to that we gave to the commissioners.
Okay. Further opportunity for general comment.
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Joe Shrego, Independent Consumer Advocate.
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners, thank you.
Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, Chairman DeBella. I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to announce that I have decided not to seek reappointment for the upcoming term, which obviously starts in the calendar year of 2024. I can report that I've been in touch with the Office of Consumer Counsel, and my understanding is that they are issuing an RFP as soon as possible hereafter, or they may have already issued it. And of course, I'm planning to complete my duties that remain for this calendar year, and I plan to help whoever they appoint, obviously, and who the MDC appoints. I'll help get him or her up to speed. And of course, I just want to thank staff and all of the commissioners for the opportunity to serve as your independent consumer advocate, and of course, all the consumers as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Joe.
Thanks.
Public comment?
Yes, Cynthia Jennings from 86 Hartman Street, Hartford, Connecticut. And I had a question, or there was a concern about the assessments that are taking place in the community. Many of the housing developments or housing units that are being investigated or assessed are not up to date with their changing of their electrical systems. And that means that they cannot get those backwater valves put in because of the electrical system will not handle that kind of imposition on their electricity, on the electrical process. So the question is whether or not we can do something to assist those seniors and the people that are low income in particular in North Hartford in getting their electrical systems upgraded to the point where they can actually have the systems and the backflow systems installed.
We'll take that under consideration. We're working on that now.
Thank you.
Further public comment? If not, I'd like to extend our thank you to our staff for their diligence, their expertise in delivering a budget without an increase. Scott, you and your staff, our staff, congratulations. Another great year. Let's do Commissioners' request for future agenda items. Commissioner Patel.
Yes, I was looking at our committees, and I would request that if you provide us scope of each committee, and then there are a number of different committees overlapping different things. It needs to be discussed, cleared up, and it should be compared with our MDC's charter. How it is, where it is, and what we are doing. Just don't keep creating committees with the same functions.
We've begun that. We've begun that in the organization committee. The last meeting, Commissioner Buell.
If I may, I think there probably is some room for clarification and separation and so forth, and I want to be part of updating you. And Commissioner Patel, I'll get it right to you as soon as I get it myself. Thank you.
Is there further requests?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Bush.
Hey, at a previous board meeting, I had brought up the request to add to a future agenda item, the idea that we might consider a look-back period to reimburse any homeowners who had to pay for sewer lateral repairs, considering now that's a free service that we offer, and I just want to follow up to make sure that that doesn't get lost. I don't know.
Scott?
Yeah, I think that that request, Commissioner, really should go back to BPW. I think that's where that your request was specifically. It was a sewer lateral that cost above the $10,000 you were asking for to reimburse the homeowner more than the $10,000 that was approved.
She was reimbursed zero.
No, just a reimbursement.
No, I understand that, but with the new policy, we can reverse up to $10,000, right?
looking back, previous to work that was done prior to that?
Oh, she was previous, okay, so yes,
Just within a month or
DPW's got to
something.
look at this and see if they can grandfather that property into the resolution.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so DPW?
Yes.
And I also have one other small thing. During my campaign, I was brought up to my attention that people would be interested in having benches at the reservoir. So I would like to maybe look into that somehow.
We've looked into that a lot.
Yeah, okay, well, I haven't, so if there's information, I'd like to know more about it, so I can go back.
Yes.
This is
What-
John. We have a program for that. I have an application I can send to you. There's only a couple spots left, but I'll circulate that to all commissioners.
Thank you.
Further requests, Commissioner Curry, then Commissioner Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Upcoming agenda, could we include presentation by IT Director Storm as it relates to cybersecurity? And I ask this because over the past few weeks, we've seen numerous articles on water companies being attacked. So I'd like to hear an update on what's happening in our unit and Paul as well.
Be a good idea for Board of Finance to bring that up and bring it back to the board.
We're happy to do that, wherever you'd like. We did bring that to audit in the past, but we're happy to do it at any committee which you'd like. It's, we believe, as you know, we've got an outstanding IT department. I just received an email yesterday morning from Craigslist asking me to update I don't have a Craigslist account, asking me to update, and I immediately sent it over to Bob, and it is a fraudulent phishing exercise, so we're very conscious of that, so we're happy to do a presentation.
Okay, further?
Yes, sir.
Who else? I'm sorry, Commissioner
Yes,
Torres.
at a future meeting, could we have a breakdown of the properties that have been acquired by MDC for the tunnel projects specifically, and of the various towns that were taking property? And are there any plans for remediating those lots that were, or properties that were taken that are now big eyesores in the municipalities?
We can provide that as well.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, the proper motion is in order. Motion to adjourn, we stand adjourned.
Party.